Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Certainly. Hibernate is a powerful object-relational mapping, ORM, framework for Java that simplifies database interactions. One of the key concepts in Hibernate is the object states and the persistence life cycle of entities. Hibernate object states. In Hibernate, an entity can exist in one of the following states. 1. Transient state, the entity is created but not associated with a Hibernate session. It is not yet persisted to the database. 2. Persistent state, the entity is associated with a Hibernate session and is managed by Hibernate. Any changes made to it will be reflected in the database. 3. Detached state, the entity was once persistent but is now no longer associated with any session. It can be reattached to a new session. 4. Removed state, the entity is marked for deletion and will be removed from the database upon the next flush. Persistence life cycle. The life cycle of an entity in Hibernate can be summarized in the following steps. 1. Creating a transient instance, you create a new instance of your entity class. This instance is in the transient state. 2. Persisting an instance, you call the save, or persist, method on a session to make the transient instance persistent. The instance then enters the persistent state. 3. Updating an instance, any changes made to a persistent instance are automatically tracked by Hibernate. You can also call update, to reattach a detached instance. 4. Removing an instance, you can call delete, to mark a persistent instance for removal. 5. Flushing the session, changes are synchronized with the database when the session is flushed, either manually or automatically at the end of a transaction. Code example. Below is a simple example demonstrating the object states and persistence life cycle using Hibernate. Step 1. Set up Hibernate configuration. Create a hibernate.cfg.xml configuration file. Step 2. Create an entity class. Define a simple user entity. Step 3. Implement the persistence life cycle. Now let's implement the life cycle in a main class. Explanation of the code. 1. Configuration, we set up a basic in-memory H2 database and Hibernate configuration. 2. Entity class, we defined a simple user class to represent a user in the database. 3. Lifecycle implementation. We created a session, began a transaction, and created a new user, transient state. We saved the user, making it persistent. We then updated the user, still persistent. After committing the transaction, we closed the session, causing the user to enter a detached state. We opened a new session, fetched the detached user, and updated it again, re-entering persistent state. Finally, we deleted the user, which marked it for removal from the database. Conclusion. This tutorial covered the Hibernate object states and persistence life cycle with a simple example. Understanding these concepts is crucial for effective use of Hibernate in Java applications. You can further explore advanced topics such as caching, batch processing, and relationships between entities as you become more familiar with Hibernate.